But for now, it is our distinct pleasure to welcome Mark Christie on to Live Impact News. Mark Christie is officially, I believe, as of October 2025, the director of William and Mary Law's brand new Center for Energy Law and Policy. Dr. Christie, it's wonderful to have you here. Can you hear me, I guess, is the first question of the interview.
Yeah, I sure can.
Okay, fantastic. We can hear you too. We can see you as well. Nia Campbell, I want to make sure we're all set in terms of audio and visual before we start the interview. Are we ready to go?
Yes, we're ready to go.
Okay, fantastic. Now, I want to give just a little bit of background, and feel free to jump in anytime, Dr. Christie. Now, Dr. Christie is the former chair of the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, the FERC. He also has taught at a number of universities throughout, I believe, the East Coast and sort of the country in general. And so he's got a lot of experience both in terms of energy regulation and energy education, and now will be the first director of William and Mary Center for Energy Law and Policy. Dr. Christie, I just want to start. How did this come about? How did you end up accepting this position and sort of joining William and Mary?
Well, first of all, let me just clarify. I'm a doctor. I'm not a doctor. I'm a lawyer. But
Yes,
the William and Mary Center for Energy Law and Policy is going to be excuse me?
Yeah, I apologize for
Can you hear
the mislabel there. Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you perfectly. Thank you for the correction.
No, that's all right. The William and Mary Center for Energy Law and Policy is really dedicated to looking at the major energy issues that we have today, and the two big issues that we face in Virginia as well as nationally come down to this. How do we keep the power grid reliable so that the lights are on when we need them? And how do we keep cost to customers affordable so people can actually afford to pay their monthly bill? Both of those right now are a major challenge. And so these are the key issues. And Virginia really is ground zero for these issues because, as you may know, everybody's hearing about it now. We're ground zero for the development of data centers, and data centers are driving a very large increase in demand in electricity, and that has implications for energy policy. So the leaders at William and Mary Law School, Dean Spencer, and wanted to start a forum for a neutral analysis and study and possibly seeking solutions to these huge energy issues that face Virginia and the nation. And so that was the genesis of this new Center for Energy Law and Policy is the leadership of William and Mary Law School, to their credit, wanted to really address these issues and thought that Virginia and William and Mary specifically was a great place to do it.
And you mentioned Virginia being a great place to do it because Virginia has been ground zero for a lot of data center development. I'm wondering why Virginia? What about our state made it such a popular destination?
Well, that's a very interesting question, and it goes back in history. And there's a long answer and a short answer. Let me try to give you the medium answer. Virginia was the place where the internet actually began to develop as a Department of Defense application back in the 1970s. And so we started to become an internet crossroads because of the original development of the internet. And that led to the development of being a popular place for data centers, which basically just facilitate internet traffic. That's what they do. And all the apps that we like. Everybody's walking around now with a phone, right? Everybody walks around with a phone, and that phone's full of apps. And that's what's driving data center development. Virginia also, as a matter of policy, for a good couple decades, has been subsidizing data center development. So it's really a combination of reasons why Virginia is ground zero for data center development. And I would say ground zero, not just for America, we're ground zero for the planet. There's no other jurisdiction that has the kind of issues that we have in terms of the data center development. Now, don't interpret this as being against data centers. Again, everybody walks around with one of these or two of these. Everybody wants to take advantage of all the apps that are online. We live life online. But this has led to major energy issues that we need to deal with in Virginia and in the nation. And that is, how do you keep the lights on in the face of all this demand? How do you treat other consumers fairly and make sure that the rates to others are fair? So all these issues are critical issues, and that's really what William and Mary Law School wanted to set up to study and analyze in a very neutral, open forum, not biased either to any particular direction, but just a neutral, open forum for academic study and academic analysis of these key energy issues and challenges that Virginia and the nation face.
And I do want to get to that open forum eventually. I want to hear more about the details of kind of how that forum is going to work. But
Right.
I want to stay with data centers in Virginia because in some of our local communities here, there have been plans for data centers. And for whatever reason, the surrounding community becomes uneasy with this idea. I'm wondering if maybe someone from one of those communities were to ask you, hey, Mark, should I be worried about this? How would you answer that question?
Well, I think the issue surrounding the data centers, there's a lot of issues surrounding data centers and water usage and other impacts. I'm not going to address that because my field of specialty is electricity. There's no question that a data center is what we call a hyperscale user, a hyperscale load center, which is techno lingo for they use a lot of power. And that power has to be, first of all, purchased. So if they're purchasing it from the utility, which is in our territory is Dominion, then new generation has to be built to serve that demand. And of course, then you get into the issues of cost allocation. How are we going to allocate the costs of what it takes to serve all this new demand? And in Virginia in particular, I mean, it started in Northern Virginia and it's now spread really to the Richmond area and into Hampton Roads. The demand that comes from these new data centers, it has to be served. It's going to take a lot of money. They have to build transmission upgrades. These are the wires. They have to build generation to serve the load. So the concern should be on how do we serve this load, and that's a matter of policy. And that's why the William & Mary Center for Energy Law and Policy is set up to look at exactly these policy questions.
And as you guys start to examine those questions, in reading up on the center, it includes a convention of policymakers, scholars. Those two I would expect in a situation like this, but then it also includes students. I know that students being a part of this center will obviously learn in a way where they'll be able to help in the future, but will students have a role to play in sort of the current examination of policy that you guys are embarking on?
Now, very good point, and the answer is absolutely yes. I've been a teacher for 20 years. I've taught at the higher education level, at university level, and in law schools. And so one of the things that I've been brought in to do at William & Mary is not only teach students directly. I'm going to be teaching energy law in the classroom, but the center itself is going to make every effort to include students in doing the research, potentially internships in energy companies. One of the goals is to provide opportunities for the students at William & Mary Law School to learn about energy issues, to prepare themselves if they choose a career in energy, which, by the way, if you're a law student, this is a great area to go into because of the challenges and the exciting issues you get to deal with. So, answer to your question, absolutely. One of my primary goals and the goal of the dean at the law school, Dean Spencer, is to include students, to involve students, and also include other faculty at William & Mary at the law school. It's not just limited to student involvement. We want to include the faculty at the law school as well.
Yeah, very good. And, the other kind of thing that I locked in on was you mentioned a very specific intersection. Public interests, industry needs. I think that we've already kind of touched on both of those in this interview. And then environmental advocacy. What are the most important aspects of environmental advocacy and protection that are going to come along with this dialogue? What are the biggest things that the energy industry and those who study it need to be focused on going forward when it comes to the environment?
Before I went to the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission for 4 years, I was 17 years on Virginia's energy regulator, which is the Virginia State Corporation Commission. And one thing I could see coming over the 17 years on the Virginia Commission is that environmental law has now become a part of energy law. It used to be that those two were separate, never merged, but now they've sort of merged because there's many environmental aspects of energy development. And so you really look at them as almost a holistic basis. And so students who are interested in environmental law really need to be interested in energy law as well, and vice versa. And so one thing at the center, that intersection of energy law and environmental law will be a continual theme because they're merged now. You really can't separate them.
Yeah, it has become sort of one in the same. I'm wondering, obviously it seems like there's a lot of advantages that come along with that. Has that led to fresh challenges when it comes to enacting the type of regulation that needs to come about?
Yeah, one of the biggest debates in energy regulation, and it has been for me as a state regulator for all those years, and then for the 4.5 years I spent on the federal commission, is when you are looking at permitting new generation facilities. For example, we need generation to build to provide electricity. It has to generate electricity. We need transmission lines to move the electricity from the generator to ultimately the end user, like Channel 13. You're an end user. You need electricity. These assets, these hard infrastructure assets, whether it's a generating electric generating unit, which could be nuclear, it could be gas, it could be wind, it could be solar, whether it's a transmission line that might cover 50, 70 miles. Give an example, when I was on the Virginia Commission, we had an application from Dominion to build a transmission line that crossed the James River right at Williamsburg. It was extraordinarily controversial, as you might imagine, a big, large transmission line that covered the James River right at Williamsburg. These kind of permits and these kind of projects invariably are extremely controversial. There are people that are going to oppose them. They're going to oppose them on environmental grounds, on aesthetic grounds, which is the same as really, I guess, environmental. So, you really find yourself having to, from a policy standpoint, you have to balance. We need generation. We can't run modern society without electricity. All right, we wouldn't be having this interview over the live TV like we are if we didn't have sufficient electricity. But we have to generate that electricity, and then we have to move it from the generator to the end user like you. This means the utility infrastructure has to be built, and that invariably is going to be controversial. So really it comes down to a question of how do we balance these different challenges? How do we balance environmental protection with the same time that the reality that we need to have electricity? We're not going to live life without electricity, and we're going to have to be able to generate sufficient electricity and then move it to the customer. So these are the challenges that the William and Mary Law Center for Energy Law and Policy is going to look at and analyze and try to come up with the aim of getting solutions.
I was going to say that very balance is the sort of exact thing that you guys will be tackling and trying to find the best possible solutions to. Now, right off the top, you mentioned keeping the power grid reliable as sort of one of the main focuses in the energy community going forward. Now, obviously, I think a part of that is just making sure that we have a system that can maintain our electricity. I wonder, is another aspect of that national defense? Is that a part of keeping the power grid reliable that you guys will focus on, and that should be a major focus when it comes to that sort of sliver of what you'll be researching?
Well, I mean, absolutely. To use a very a soundbite, energy security is national security. We can't have national security unless we also have energy security, and that means we have to have sufficient electricity to run the data centers that in many cases run national security applications. So we have to have that. So it's absolutely essential for the security of America, not just for consumers who want to use individual consumer appliances, for example, but energy security is critical to the security of the whole of the United States. We cannot have a modern society and a safe society unless we have sufficient energy, and specifically, I'm talking now about electricity, because our whole modern life depends on electricity. We crossed that Rubicon a long time ago. We can't do without electricity, and when we have increases in the demand for electricity, we have to meet that demand.
No doubt about it. And then I'm wondering, when it comes to you working with students so closely, and I know that you've been teaching for some time, is there anything about students today, the 2025, sort of the class of 2025 and the few classes that surround it, when it comes specifically to your areas of interest, that you find markedly different from maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago? Is there anything about these students that they are maybe more savvy about, maybe need more work on, maybe the ways in which they approach things? Is there anything you can pinpoint about modern students when it comes to energy study that's different?
Well, one thing about modern students, and I've had opportunity to teach now for 20 years, and so I've seen changes. one thing about modern students, again, I'll get back to this, they are totally savvy on living life online. They've grown up online. And so they're very comfortable learning via, online applications and just living in that technical world. But even as recently as 10 years ago, it was largely a pen and paper world when you were teaching. Certainly 20 years ago, students were taking notes on paper with pens. And now it's all being done on iPads or laptops. And so that's been a big change. Is students today are extraordinarily savvy with living life online and studying online and learning online, and that's something that has changed. What has not changed, in my experience, has been students want to get to the bottom of these issues. Students have a natural curiosity, and they know that energy is extraordinarily important, and they know that environmental aspects are very important. They're very environmentally conscious as well. So one thing I love about teaching, I always have loved about teaching, is that the natural curiosity of students is exciting to me because they want to learn these issues. And it's exciting to me to help them learn and to teach. And also, I learn a lot from students. I learn as much from students as they learn from me, because it's amazing the insights students have that I don't have. And that's one of the great things about teaching is you learn from your students as well as vice versa.
Yeah, I love that, Director Christie. That's awesome to hear. We've certainly learned a lot from getting to spend some time with you today. Is there anything else that maybe I haven't brought up that you think is vital to explain about this center or about the energy industry in general?
I think it's a credit to Hampton Roads, and I think it's a credit to the leadership of the William and Mary Law School that they wanted to have a nation-leading center for the study of these critical energy issues. The leadership at the law school, Dean Spencer, stepped up and said, we're Virginia. We are the ground zero for these energy challenges. We ought to be the leader in addressing these challenges and studying these challenges. And so I have a lot of admiration that the leadership at the William and Mary Law School said, we're ground zero for these challenges. Let's be the leader in addressing these challenges, and let's do it from William and Mary Law School here in Hampton Roads, Virginia.
Awesome. Well, Director Christie, thanks so much. I was taking notes for this interview earlier today, and I wrote down the DR next to your name with every intention of saying Director Christie. I started off calling you Dr. Christie, but I'm glad now that we get to finish this interview with what seems like a very, very exciting future for this center, center as a part of William & Mary Law School. So congratulations to you, and we look forward to seeing everything you guys do, and hopefully we can have you on after your first conference in 2026.
Absolutely. Happy to. Just let me know.
All right.
Thanks
Thank
for
you, Director.
thanks for the
Appreciate
interview.
it.
Enjoyed it.